You can buy gear, software, tools, look at stats, trends, click-through rate, audience retention, learn sound design, A/B test thumbnails with TubeBuddy, but nothing of that matters if you're not doing this first. Let's talk. Alright guys, there are a lot of tools, resources and tips out there to help you grow on YouTube, and a lot of them are about optimization. And that's fine, but in this video we're not talking about optimizing, we're talking about the fundamentals in order to grow on YouTube long term. So what do I mean by that? Well, if you want to get like 200, 300, 600 subscribers, you can do these short-term solutions like following trends or using clickbait or advertising your videos or trying to make a video go viral, but it's not really a long-term solution, and I'm gonna explain to you what I mean by that. But don't get me wrong, none of those things are bad per se, but if you really want to take YouTube seriously and maybe you want to turn that into a part-time income or even a full-time income, you need to take more long-term decisions and establish some core things in order to maintain the growth, but also make it sustainable and make it realistic for you. Because you don't want to work super hard for 2-3 years and maybe get a nice growth, but then burn yourself out and don't have the motivation or any ability to continue on the path that you started. So I want to share with you 3 tips that has helped me along the way tremendously that you should really implement into your content creation process. And speaking about process, the first thing is creating checklists. And if you work at an office, they probably call it systems or processes, maybe because that sounds more sophisticated than checklists, but basically it's the same thing. It's a list of actions that you take in order to complete something, and the power of having a checklist is that you first make sure that you don't miss anything, but also you make sure that it's done in a certain way and it's done the same way every time. And that's especially important if you're working with other people, but it can also be super important for you as an individual, because you can focus on the things that you need to do even the days when you don't feel like you had a lot of mental energy or you don't have that concentration that you usually have. So you can just follow the checklist and you can trust that, and you know that you will finish the things in time. And it's also really good for planning, because once you have written down a checklist for something, you can see how much time it takes, and then from that you can also plan in blocks in your calendar so you know exactly how much time each part of the process takes. Because you want to spend your time on the creative tasks. I mean, have you ever heard a video creator say, "Oh, I want to create videos because I just love to troubleshoot failed exports," or "I love to import footage, I love to create proxy files"? None of those are creative tasks. It's just things that come along with the creation process. And that's what you want to have in the checklist in order to free up space in your head to focus on the creative things, the things that got you started in the first place. You can think about it like this. Your brain is like a car. And what do you use a car for? Well, you use it to go from point A to point B. Maybe you go to the store to buy something and then you bring it home. Maybe you give someone a ride to another place. You don't use it to store things. You don't have all your Christmas things in the car just because it's handy to have it close. But that's how you're using your brain. You store things in the brain and you let it take up space that it doesn't have to take up when you can write it down. And if you would store all your Christmas things in the car, you would have extra load all the time and you will use up more fuel every time you're driving. And that's exactly the same thing that you're doing with your brain. If you have these thoughts, these open loops that goes around in your head all the time, it's taking up unnecessary space from the mental concentration that you need for your task at hand. So start creating checklists before you feel like you need it. And you can start simple. It doesn't have to be super detailed like I have it. I have like one checklist for doing the graphics in a video, one for doing the color correction, one for doing the audio, one for exporting, one for uploading. And I also have checklists for other things like daily planning or weekly planning, household tasks, packing for a trip, for example. My point is, it's just a waste of mental space that you store things in your head that you can store on paper or digitally, and you're wasting time. The second thing that will help you grow on YouTube and maintain that growth long term is taking care of your body. When I stopped playing ice hockey a couple of years back, the first time I stopped, then I restarted and stopped again. But when I stopped, I thought that non-physical activities didn't require a healthy lifestyle or a lot of sleep. But what I soon realized was that spending more time on something doesn't necessarily mean that you get more done. Like if you're working in an industry and you do the same thing over and over again, maybe that works. But if you have a creative job, you need that focus and you need that concentration in order to be effective with your time. And also, it's not the same thing being effective and being productive. And if I look back at how I worked a couple of years ago, I was focused on being effective and doing a lot of things, and I thought that the more hours I worked, the more I could get done, which isn't really true, because sometimes you can spend 10 hours on something that you could have done in 8 hours if you were better rested and your body was in good shape, your brain is in good shape because you take care of it and you are more concentrated and focused on the task that you're doing. And if you really read about that, I read a book called Why We Sleep by Matthew Walker. You really understand the connection between the sleep and how it's affecting your work and your focus and concentration, and also how the physical activity is affecting that as well. Just a short 20-minute walk on your lunch break can have a huge impact, both on the productivity in your work, but also the creativity. And it's also good to get new inputs, like go out in the nature, try a new sport that you haven't tried before, or go somewhere and try something new, because every new input is helping you with your creativity. So you're getting new information and you can take new decisions, new creative decisions when you're working. So sleeping well, eating healthy, and exercising will help you long term to both feel better but also avoid burnout and avoid getting sick. And number 3 is priorities. One thing that I learned from my coach, Jan, was to rename my to-do list. So I have a to-do list with 3 tasks for the next day. So it's the top 3 priorities for the upcoming day. And I renamed it to I get to do this tomorrow instead of I have to do this tomorrow. Just that mental shift helps you be more motivated and more happy about the tasks that you're doing, and you know why you're doing them. And if you make sure that you are prioritizing the right things, then you stay productive instead of just being effective and doing a lot of small urgent things. You actually focus on the big things that are taking you forward and taking you in the right direction, most importantly. Because it's so easy to just pick these small quick tasks because they are easy to do, and then you can check them off your to-do list and you can pat yourself on the shoulder and you feel a little bit good about it, but it's not actually taking you forward in the long run. So sometimes it's good to zoom out a little bit, look at all your tasks and think about what are the most important tasks and what are the most urgent tasks, and then not only doing the urgent tasks all the time, but actually focus on the bigger picture. If you have a big important task that is not urgent, try to break it down into smaller things so that you can actually prioritize them while getting other things done as well. One thing that really helps me, if we go back to the checklists, is that I have checklists for my daily planning, my weekly planning, my monthly planning, and yearly planning. So for the year, I set the big goals for the year and the things I want to achieve. Then I break that down into habits, and with the monthly planning I go through like the accounting and the bigger projects that I have for the month. So when the week starts, I know exactly what I have to do that week, and depending on other things that are coming up that week or events or places I need to go to, I can distribute the tasks within the week. That way I make sure that I'm always focusing on the right task every day, every week, every month. Of course, things pop up that are not expected, but that gives me a guideline to make sure I'm going down the right path for me. If you found this video valuable, please subscribe to the channel because I will probably do more videos like this. in the future. Also check out the video description below because I have a lot of resources there for other creators. Some of them you have to pay for, some of them are completely free. So check that out because I'm trying to help with the things that I can help with. Other than that, thanks for watching and I'll see you guys in the next video.